Oh my God. I don't know if I'm ready. I'm ready.
You want me to count you down from 10 or 5?
Either one. 5. I like 5. 5 is a good number. It's about change. And so are we live with the people or no? Because I'm going to give them a minute to go get a piece of paper and pen. Then.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. And what a fabulous day we have. And so my name is Lori Carter. I'm a certified medium, healer, and teacher in Casadega Spiritualist Camp. And we're going to do a little exercise to start out Lyceum today. So for those of you at home, if you can grab a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, and the people already here have theirs, and put 1 through 10 on your paper. And I'm a medium healer teacher in the camp. I'm a writer as well. Wrote for newspapers and magazines for probably lots of years, maybe 30 years. Oh my goodness, I'm really not that old. And let's see, I'm just having small talk. Okay, I'm hoping people at home have their paper and pencil by now. And, I just want to mention and give myself a plug here. FromTheEthers.com is my website. I write a weekly blog there. I've been doing it for over 4 years. Go check it out. And so on to the exercise. I'm going to think some people in the back already know what I'm doing because they've been here and done that. So I have 10 cards. And I'm going to hold one up at a time, and I want you to choose if it's predominantly red or predominantly black. Okay, here we go. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 8. Nine. And 10. Wouldn't that be funny? I was just sitting here thinking, wow, what if I was colorblind? Anyway, okay, here we go. Everybody ready? Okay, so the first card is red. The second card is black. The third card is red. The fourth card is black, and it's a 4. I like that. The fifth card is black. The sixth card is red. The seventh card is black. The eighth card is black. The ninth card is black. And the 10th card is red. So who got at least 50%? Awesome. And how'd you guys do? 5? Anyone over 5? 6? Anyone else? Okay, awesome. Good job, though. You guys got at least one right? And so my point in doing this is to let everybody know that, yes, we all are psychically gifted. We're all very intuitive. We all have the gifts, and it just matters to what you want to do with your gifts. Okay. And so first of all, I'm going to talk about the gifts of psychic mediumship. And so first we're going to talk about clairvoyance today. Clairvoyance is clear seeing. It's subjective. Either non-physical sources create images within a person's mind, in the mind's eye, or it is objective, which indicates the psychic power of being able to objectively see objects, non-physical entities. And so for the longest time for myself, and when we first start out with our gifts, it might be a little rudimentary, but then it grows as we work with it. I can remember before I even realized who I was. I mean, I've always been a knower, just didn't know there was something to it. But I used to see black figures running in the yard at night. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Right. And everyone's like, ooh, they're black. Oh no. Honestly, black is a great color. It's about protection, And then eventually I started seeing things in my mind's eye. And when that happens for me, we look like each other, in my mind's eye, like we do see each other. And so then my daughter, she's a whole nother story. God bless her. She's a beautiful psychic medium here in the camp. When she was about, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 years old, of course, she had all our little friends when she was younger and whatnot, the imaginary friend type of thing is what mainstream would call it. We would call it something else, right? And so she saw spirit with her eyes out here, and at first she saw him like you and I see each other. Now, and it's funny too, because we used to be driving down the street and I'd be like, oh, do you see the spirits? Do you see them? She's like, Mom, they're everywhere. And I'm like, what do they look like? Tell me, right? And she would always say that, they would look like you and I, the way we see each other. And then some of them would have little hoods over their heads and could only see the face. And so I thought that was very interesting. Being the reporter that I am, I ask questions, my poor children, and I still do it today. And so anywho, and so then eventually it grows, right? And so I started seeing actually white figures, white lights. I started seeing details where you could see the face and the hair, and like up to here is about what I see. Sometimes I will see whole figures and whole people. In fact, one time, sometimes you guys can look at a white wall at home, right? And sometimes you might be able to see shadows of people. Something to think about working on. And so let's see here. Where else do I want to go with this? And so clairvoyance, I love it. It's my best gift these days. And I got to tell a story quick. And so I was in the middle of my radiation treatment, and this was, I'm going to say 2017. I had 30 treatments, and they have, this is bothering me. They have special teams working with each patient, right? And so the first day that I was there, I met all these people and saw them all there. And one man looked just like you and I, right? And he wasn't speaking to me though. And I thought it was the weirdest thing, but I let it go, right? And a couple of other times during treatments, I saw him walking in the hallway. And then finally, after the last when I was there for my last treatment, he showed up again. And he was not communicating with me still. So I asked the one man who was closest to him. I said, listen, I said, do you know, I'm just going to say, do you know a guy named Jeff? He told me what his name is, or I got what his name was. And he said, oh, well, that is somebody that I know, because they all know I'm a psychic medium, right? What do you talk about? You talk about what you do. And so he said, oh, well, that was the one man who assisted me in making my decision into coming into oncology treatments and into radiation treatments. And I said, oh, how wonderful is that? I said, I hope he's not in spirit, right? Well, I never did hear back from him. I gave him my card. And so then I started thinking about, well, how could I see him like that, with him not being in spirit? And I think it was because his energy was so inside of that gentleman that he was there. And I thought that was pretty exciting for me as a psychic medium. And so we're going to move. Any questions on clairvoyance? Okie doke. Clairsentience is clear feeling. And we all have this. Are there any mothers here? Yeah. And so we know what's going on with our kids. We knew what was going on with our kids before we knew we were clairsentient. Clairsentience is a gut feeling. It also has to do with your heart chakra. Have you ever walked into a crowd and maybe there was an argument? You can feel the residue left over from it. Or have you ever walked into a place, conversely, where there's happy people and you can feel the celebratory feeling of that? I like it. So it's interesting too, as I noted, as we work as psychic mediums, our gifts grow. And I don't know what else to call this, but my clairsentience coming out in the physical. And during my private readings, I started getting, the first time it happened to me, this woman sits down, I sit down, I say a prayer and I start the reading. And I started fidgeting with my arm up here, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't get this. And then my arm started going really crazy, right? And I'm like, oh my God, stop doing that. I'm trying to do a reading, right? Little did I know, toward the end of the reading, I actually brought her father in. Turns out, towards the end of his life, she took him to church. He wanted to go to church and he had to be in his wheelchair. And so she, brought him to church, got him sat down in the pew, took the wheelchair in the back and came and sat down. Well, after a little while, he started having a little bit of an episode. So she had to go back and get the wheelchair to help get him to leave. And on the way, bringing the wheelchair back to him, his arm was going like this and he was having an episode. Isn't that amazing? And so this is how clairsentient works. You feel things. Okay, there's different ways with clairsentience. There's the body-mind map, right? The body-mind map, when I say this, you may feel things in your body when you're doing readings or coming into your gifts. And perhaps maybe you feel a real heaviness in your shoulders. Shoulders, what is that about? It's about responsibility. And so I know that when I'm working with a client, that they're having a heavy responsibility going on in their life right now. And then by this time, more information comes. So there's the body-mind map. There's, it's really all about growing your vocabulary to work with spirit. And so, so every part of the body has some type of correlation to it. Knees, support in life, makes sense, right? And so there's also imprinting when you allow the spirit to come on to you, when you're doing a reading. And so maybe you feel a little something in your leg, or maybe your, leg is partially missing, right? You can feel that. And you got to say it, though. You got to trust the information you get. And so, oh, yeah. And so, I mean, constantly, and it's a great little gift. It is. I've learned to control it a little bit. It's interesting too, because sometimes, people come in who have taken their own life and they would show me in different ways. And I would go like this and I'm like, I know what that is. Or I would go like this and I know what that is. Right. And so very interesting. Be open to your gifts growing. You know, that's the big thing. And obviously trusting what you get. Any questions about clairsentience? All righty. So now we're going to go into claircognizance, which is knowing, just knowing something to be true without any physical evidence. And so have you ever just blurted things out of your mouth and you're like, oh, I said it, it must be true, but I'm not sure how I got that, right? And a lot of ways I do feel, I mean, my theories change on a daily basis. Every time I do a reading, something new happens, you know? And so, you know, a lot of times I felt that knowing was maybe having, you know, vivid dreams, right? And seeing things before they happen. And I feel like that could still be true. I'm not saying it's not true, but I feel like that could still be true. You know, maybe you see things before they happen, right? The trick is trying to remember it consciously, although it is subconsciously in our minds regardless, right? And so, yeah. And I'm going to share a dream, and I've shared this story many times. If you've heard it, forgive me for telling it again, but I love it. And so early on in my development, I was actually meditating every day, same time, same place for 3 years in a row, and did not miss a day. I had some phenomenal meditations. We're going to get to meditation in a minute. And so I had this dream over and over for like 3 nights, and I saw an orange car in the dream. In the car, there were 2 people in front, 2 in back. And one in the back had his arm like this, so I know he was not alive, you know, like how you see it on TV. And so I'm like, wow, that's a strange dream, right? And so about a week later, I'm waiting. And then, of course, in the dream, the car is still moving forward through a large, expansive field, and it actually parks at a house. And, you know, and the reason why I knew who was inside, I was looking inside of the window while it was driving. So, you know, I guess I was flying in my dream. And so, anywho, I saw the orange car. Yeah. And so now I'm here at waiting in line to go into yoga class. And I strike up a conversation with a woman, and she said they finally caught who had killed the people who had killed her son 20 years ago in South Florida. And I'm a freelance writer. I'm like, hey, my name's Lori Carter. I do this. Might be a really great story to tell, you know? And by this time, we had to get back in, and we said that we would exchange phone numbers after the class. And so during Savasana, which is resting pose to meditate on your practice, orange car drove by, and I'm like, oh, no way. So when we get out of class, she gives me her phone number. I said, was there an orange car involved in it? No, I think it was red, she said. I said, oh, okay. So by the time I got home, there was a message on my phone saying that it was an orange card, and she wanted to know how I knew it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to out myself? What am I going to do? Right. So I called her up and I said, I had this dream and blah, blah, blah. And I explained everything. And there were 3 other people involved. They unearthed his bones in a large field, and that vehicle, all those years later, was still sitting by the house. And I was like, wow. And so it's very cool. Pay attention to your dreams. Keep a dream journal. Put the date down on it, because you never know what you're going to see, you know? And then there's also the thought about knowing, where it has to do with the crown chakra and how you're connected to source, and it just comes in. I mean, you get to choose what you believe is true for yourself, you know? Any questions about claircognizance? No? Clairaudience, clear hearing. Have you ever heard your name called and you look and there's no one there? Happens to me many times. And I got to tell you one time, and you know, during readings, I hear things all the time now, and it's great. It's like, whoa, did I just hear that? Right. And in fact, it made me think of actually the class that we just had the other night when we heard those voices. I love that, you know, and especially when more than one person hears it, it's true phenomenon and it's really happening. I love it. And so one time I got to share a story. Usually right before Christmas time, we have a big gathering and we all come in here and we, you know, put together, decorate the Kobe temple for Christmas. And one year I was here with several people and I was standing in like a crowd of 4 people. And I swear I heard somebody say something, right? And in their own voice, the person in the crowd, because I wasn't looking at them. And I said, "What did you say?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't say nothing." And I said, "Did anyone else hear that?" You know, because that's what you do. No one heard it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to share what was said. But let me tell you something. I didn't hug that man ever again because it was a little much for me, but I heard it. So pay attention to the things that you hear. You know, don't think that you're not hearing it. You are hearing it. Okay. Any questions about Claire audience? Clairgoustiance and is clear smelling and tasting. Have you ever smelled a cigarette in the air around you? And you're like, no one's smoking? Have you ever smelled perfume? Yeah. And there's no one there. One time I was doing a story and a story I wrote for the Lake edition of the Orlando Sentinel for 17, 18 years. I was doing a story on this woman who worked for hospice and she helped people tell their life stories in a little booklet that they made before people left the earth plane. And what a fabulous woman, what a fabulous job, really, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm doing the interview with her. It's just her and I keep smelling this perfume. And this is early on, you know, and finally I'm just like, I smell this older woman around you and she has perfume and it smells like lilacs. Do you know this lady? Did somebody just recently passed around you? And she was a little afraid to say so at first, you know, but then I said, listen, this is not going to go in the article. And she said, yes, right? You know, she could think of a woman who recently had passed and used that perfume. And the greatest thing was I felt relieved to be able to say something about it. She felt relieved. So she could say something about it as well and not worry about it. So later on that day, I'm at home and I'm writing an article. I smell that perfume behind me the whole time. I got goosebumps just talking about this. This is like 15 years ago, right? And so, and then as soon as I sent the article on to my editor, she was gone. I so wanted to call my editor and ask if he could smell perfume around him, but I didn't. And so it's pretty remarkable, you know. Again, you gotta believe what you're getting. That's the biggest thing. And so, any questions about that? Okay. And so mediumistic or psychic, which is it? Right? And so I got to tell you, my theory changes on it every day. It just does. But psychic is getting images and information from the person around or their aura around the person is what the textbook says. And mediumistic is connecting with spirit. And it's interesting because, you know, there's always a fine line, right? To just about everything. But when I'm sitting there and I'm doing readings with people in my office, you know, I mean, we're in a small little space and I'm seeing symbols way over there. And I'm sorry, their aura is not that far out because I can feel it. So I feel like spirit shows me symbols a lot of times, you know. It's up to you to decide what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You know how it's coming around, psychic or mediumistic. And then meditation. Here, I'm going to talk about meditation for a minute. And so this is how we grow our gifts. Meditation and getting to classes, hanging out with people who are like-minded, right? And so meditation, I know a lot of people say that you should sit in meditation, and there are specific times that I will sit in meditation. Like if I'm going to do some automatic writing, I'll sit in meditation. Or if I'm going to center myself briefly before the day starts when I'm doing readings, I'll sit in meditation. But when I'm going for the big meditation, I'm going to lay down in my bed because you got to be comfortable, number one. All right. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to be able to meditate that well. And so I lay in my bed with my arms at my side, palms up in receiving position. And the best thing to do now is to set an intention as to see what you want to happen during your meditation. And so maybe you'd like to grow your gifts. Maybe you would like to meet your guides. Maybe you need some body, mind, spirit healing. Maybe you just need some peace. I mean, it's funny. I mean, because like I said, for 3 years straight, I meditated every day. And I can remember one time I'm just laying there, I'm like, I just need some peace. A peace lily shows up and I'm like, thank you, spirit, right? You just never know what you're going to get, right? And so have a little music in the background, nothing with singing in it, nothing too fast, nothing because you don't want to be humming along to the music, right? And so you've set your intention now, and now you're going to lay there and you're going to start thinking about, okay, we're going to meditate. And now you're going to say, oh, there's dishes in the sink. There's clothes in the washer. There's this to do. There's that to do. What you do is you focus your thoughts and your minds on your third eye, and you focus on your breathing in and out. Okay. And that should bring you back into the meditative state. If you can only do 5 minutes the first day, yay. The second day, add a few more minutes and try to get up to a 20-minute meditation daily. Because trust me, when you get to the 20 minutes, you're going to want to do more. It's great. And so, most times people do not like, old time teachers don't want you laying down. Because why? You're going to fall asleep at first. And so what? Number one, you needed the sleep. Number two, you set the intention for your meditation. And so now you're in meditation. The first things you're going to see are colors. Then maybe you're going to see symbols. You might start seeing orbs and spirit. But when you start seeing things, don't focus on what's going by, because as soon as you do that, you're engaging your left brain. And now it's going to bring you out of the meditation. Okay? So allow it to flow by. And that's really hard to do sometimes because I'm like, oh, what is it? What is it? You're right. And so if you do fall asleep, what's the first thing you do when you wake up? You open your eyes, close your eyes quickly again, and see what's on your visual field. Because a lot of times I feel like people miss out on some of the meditation. Allow yourself to close your eyes and see what's on the visual field. Yeah. And, and here's the thing. Maybe you keep a journal about your meditations as well. Might be kind of fun. Another thing you can do in your meditation or before you go to sleep, perhaps you'd like your higher self to meet up with someone else's higher self who's on the higher side of life. I mean, I wouldn't try different people every night. I would just stick to one person. Yeah. And so again, get to classes. There's classes being taught all the time here in the camp. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's about all I got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Go ahead. And that's interesting that you're bringing that up. And so, I mean, there's universal symbols. Water is about emotion, right? Trees and nature trees are about family for me. When I see trees, depending what type of tree and whatnot. I mean, that's a whole class in itself. And so, you could always ask your guides to assist you in showing you symbols. Yeah, it's funny too, because I am teaching an online workshop coming up. It just so happens March 19th on the symbology of the tarot. It's an online class or workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop. You can find it on casadega.org. And, get with teachers, see when they're teaching classes, see what they're teaching, how they're teaching. And there's always classes going on here and workshops. And you can also do a study of your own. I mean, you can look up like the one star that goes like this. I can't even think of the name right now. It's as above, so below. You can even look at a tree that way, because the branches reach to the heavens and the roots reach to the ground. As above, so below, and there are universal signs, and you can look those up. Everyone has the same meaning to those, but yeah, get to class. Start looking at animal totems. That's always a good one to start with, and if you're going to look at animal totems, I would look at Native American, because why? They're the oldest around, And so, yeah, so I'm sorry I couldn't really answer your question fully, but anyone else? All right, I thank you very much. I hope it was helpful. Have a great day. Don't make me start.
Oh.
Darn it, man. Standing in one place too long, and I don't have my real inserts for these shoes. Something else to get old, sister.
Yeah. Well,
I kind of started out slow. I couldn't get my stuff together for some reason.
I think because it's just.
It's just,
Yeah, it's just not.
it's been weird for like a week now, at least.